We make no apology for talking about mental health, and this week is recognizing and acknowledging and also celebrating Mental Health Awareness Week. And all this week we've been trying to tap into the brains of people who know more about it than we do. And this morning we're joined by superstar who's at the front line actually of Lifeline. He is a workshop facilitator and helpline counsellor. His name is Jared Lanigan. Good morning and welcome to the show, Jared.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
So what does a workshop facilitator do, Jared?
Yeah, there's a slight difference to a trainer. So we go into workplaces and we talk about stress and looking after yourself, all that basic stuff that we all tend to forget, including me. And then we sort of have, there's sort of three modules. So the first module is about looking after yourself and your own stress and how that shows up in your life. And then the second module is like how to check in with family, whānau, friends, that kind of thing. And then the third module is sort of more specific, targeted at workplaces with call centre staff, dealing with customers who are like sort of in debt or going through some kind of struggle with mental health or whatever it is. So we just sort of teach some skills around empathy and connecting and, again, looking after themselves. We kind of bang on about that a lot.
Call centre staff must just take a hammering.
Yeah.
Pretty much in any, even when you're just calling your bank or something, you've been on hold for 25 minutes and then you've got some problem and, people tend to just unload on the person who's taking their call, who's not the cause of the problem. But
yes, you get the sensation that, like, since COVID, the temperature rating out there is pretty high. So if you get like an anonymous voice on the end of the line like that can, it can get real confrontational really easily, and people are just stressed. Like, that's just the bottom line. So it's all about, getting people to connect and empathise, which is easier said than done sometimes.
You're saying that the temperature's getting a little bit hotter out there and a lot of people are reaching out to Lifeline, which is a good thing, that they have a service available to them. But do people look at Lifeline as that's the last resort? And should that be the case?
They definitely see it as that. I think there's a perception out there that it's a suicide line primarily, whereas in fact we talk to people with a whole range of issues, parenting issues, sort of workplace stress or relationship stuff. My advice to everyone would be, even if you're sitting in that place and you're not quite feeling like it's bad enough, in quotations, I'd really encourage people to just ring and spin them a yarn for 10 minutes, just see how that goes. There's no pressure. And even if you've had a bad experience reaching out before, even with counsellors, we chop and change to get the right fit. So there's no saying that, the next time you call, you won't find that person who gets it, who actually listens the right way or kind of gels with you. So I think shame has a lot to do with it, and people just sort of pushing through, like good old Kiwi mentality.
Oh, we love that. Just old, harden up and get on with it type thing. Yeah, that's interesting, about, people using it completely as a last resort or not maybe getting in touch earlier if they don't have anyone else to speak to or to connect with. Yeah. And like you said, even just for 10 minutes or so, because I guess for a lot of people, like I've never called Lifeline. I have no idea what the experience would kind of be like. Can you talk us through what happens when somebody calls the number? By the way, if anyone wants it, it's 0800 543 354. We can text 4357. It's 24/7, right? Any time of the day, wherever people can call. That's what actually happens? Who do they speak to, and what kind of goes on in a call?
So the counsellors are sort of everyday people. It's a range from people sort of studying psychology through to people who have experience sort of face-to-face counselling and qualified counsellors. Everyone has training, quite comprehensive training there. But the difference between that and sort of face-to-face counselling long-term is that it's sort of brief intervention. So they'll sort of hear a little bit about what's going on, acknowledge them, listen to them, and this is sort of the training that I do is really about bringing these skills out of the helpline into the workplace. Yeah. So the basic things they'll do is just check in with people, ask them how they're going, and listen rather than fix, which is the hardest thing to do sometimes, I think, especially for those of us with family members, and we tend to maybe know or think we know what's going on. We want to join the dots for people. But often the best thing we can do is just listen, hear, like acknowledge the emotion that's valid for them. Because if we jump straight into problem-solving mode, we can risk sort of invalidating or sort of saying, oh, well, haven't you thought of this or that? And it's sort of a little bit shaming.
Here's the steps you need to take. This is what you got to do.
Yeah, like they hadn't considered that themselves, kind of thing.
Because you mentioned listening the right way. Is that what you're talking about there?
Yeah. So it's sort of like, hey, it sounds like that's super tough. Like it sounds like you just needed more time to communicate with her or whatever it is. Like, oh, yeah, I hear you. You know, there's this great empathy video by Brene Brown on YouTube. And there's this wonderful line in it, and this little animated bear, he's talking to his little bunny friend. It's sort of like Winnie the Pooh vibes. And he says, you know, his bunny friend's sort of is down in the hole, literally in a hole in this cartoon. And he says, look, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm glad that you told me. And that's powerful stuff, you know, just the presence rather than sort of jumping in. And it's totally understandable we want to jump in, right? Because we want to help, we want to be of value. And if someone's really hurting that we love, that can be the hardest thing to just sit with. But yeah, just connecting first and acknowledging what's going on for them is valid. And then advice giving has a place too. But it's sort of like asking for permission. Like, hey, I'm just reflecting on something as you're talking. Do you mind if I share what that is? Sort of asking for that permission.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
When people call through, can they speak to the same person again, or do you just sort of take whoever answers the phone type thing? How does that work?
Yeah, typically not. Just because the reality of sort of shift rosters and that. But yeah, that's sort of like it's built into the design of it being brief intervention.
Yeah, right.
So listening, acknowledging, sort of helping someone along with what their next steps are. But honestly, 90% of the work is just someone hearing you out and not flinching or not judging or not trying to fix it or say, hey, at least there's this, you know, that sort of silver lining mentality. And then, yeah, at the end, they'll sort of connect them up to the people in their lives or the supports that they've got out there in the community.
Jared, if you notice someone going through a tough time, whether it's in your workplace or a friend group, how would you recommend sort of asking that person how they're going and doing that in a really respectful way, but a way in which, you know, they actually do open up and they feel safe?
Yeah. So we talk a lot about I statements. One of the biggest temptations is to say something like, hey, you look different, or hey, what's up? Like, it's you know, and those questions are fine, but what we encourage is that people say what we are noticing as individuals. So, hey, I noticed that you were a little late to the meeting, like, or I noticed you're looking really tired at the moment, like, is everything all right? That way, we're owning that it's our observation and we're not sort of making a concrete statement about them and their mental health, and that's just a little bit less threatening. Of course, Kiwi mentality, again, people are bound to say something like, I'm fine. And that's cool. You know, we can just say, hey, and just sort of reaffirm, like, all good. I just checking in because I noticed this. And then we might use what's called a drop and run approach. So you know that I'm here anytime that you want to talk, hey? And then we can walk away.
Sure. Nice practical tip, bro.
Yeah, that's good. Like giving the invitation, even if maybe they're not ready to take it instantly, but knowing that door has kind of been opened.
Yeah.
That you're aware, or you've noticed something.
Yeah, and the next person that comes their way, you know, they might be ready then. It's just planting that seed.
That's cool.
Thanks for the practical tips this morning, Jared. You've been awesome, bro.
Oh, not to worry.
If people need to get a hold of Lifeline, we'll give it our number, but I want you to give it out again. But are there any other practical resources that people can get a hold of as well?
Yeah, Lifeline is a good sort of hub for people. Like if they're looking for advice around finding a counsellor, you know, they can do that for them. So ringing up or texting Lifeline. Some people find texting is a little less confrontational, and that's cool too.
What's the number?
So that's 4357 for the text. And then Lifeline is 0800 543 354.
One more time?
0800 543 354.
You'll be pretty good at a call centre, bro. Just take that up. Jared Lanigan, workshop facilitator and helpline counsellor, and all-around great guy. Thanks for coming in, Jared. Appreciate you, bro.
Oh, it's a pleasure.